More power warnings. The government is told it needs to do more to ensure Taiwan doesn't run out of electricity. A green light. The EU says it will accept Taiwan's digital COVID passes. A magpie motif. Taiwan's women's football team gear up for next year's Asian Cup. And new limbs from old toys. The animal shelter in Gaza taking recycling to the next level. A warm welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Yin Khvat. Industrial leaders in Taiwan have met with government representatives and urged them to increase efforts to ensure the country has a stable supply of electricity. The chairman of semiconductor giant TSMC says the government and private sector need to work together to deal with an expected energy shortage. Louise Watt reports.
After Foxconn founder Terry Gou said that he expects blackouts in Taiwan next year, Taiwan's vice premier and other cabinet officials reportedly heard similar warnings from other industry leaders at a private breakfast meeting on Tuesday. Vice Premier Shen Rongjin says there is no cause for alarm and drew attention to a natural gas-fueled power plant in Taoyuan on the northwest coast.
会督促台电大潭8、9号机组如期完工，来提高前场的总发电量。
Semiconductor giant TSMC has been expanding operations in recent years. The power-hungry company would be severely impacted by any energy shortage. But TSMC chairman Mark Liu says an energy shortage next year would be a short-term problem. He says TSMC has been buying green energy facilities as it pushes on with its goal to have renewable energy supply at least 25% of the power consumed by its fabrication plants by 2030.
短期的事情我们并没有讨论太多，也需要这个政府和我们一起合作，要一些超前部署，主要是在绿能起来以前，我们怎么样一起来度过这一段的过渡时期。
Warnings over Taiwan's potential energy crisis have grown louder amid the failure of a weekend referendum that hoped to activate the country's 4th nuclear power plant. The Tsai government is working to phase out nuclear power by 2025. The government's current plan calls for decreasing coal usage and increasing the use of natural gas from around 17% of Taiwan's energy mix to 50% by 2025. However, Chinese Association of Industry and Commerce chairman Lin Bo-feng is warning against an over-reliance on natural gas. He points out that the fossil fuel is not exactly a low-emission form of energy.
天然气全世界在减用，台湾要增加为50%。 我讲这个政策必须要检讨。
Renewable energy is supposed to account for 20% of Taiwan's total energy by 2025, but it's far off that for now. The pandemic has delayed construction of major facilities. Construction targets for solar and offshore wind turbine facilities haven't been met for 2 consecutive years. Solar power companies say legal hindrances must be removed for more progress. And unlike countries around the world, Taiwan has no renewable energy targets for after 2025. Industry leaders are hoping the government will continue planning ahead for the next 5 to 10 years to help keep Taiwan's lights on. Damon Lin and Louise Watt for TaiwanPlus.
The EU is accepting Taiwan into its digital COVID certificate system for travel within member states without quarantine. To qualify, applicants need to show they have received a vaccine approved by the European Medicines Agency. These include Moderna, BioNTech, Pfizer, AstraZeneca, Janssen and Sinovac. Taiwan's homegrown medicine Medigen vaccine is not on the list. The Health Ministry says digital vaccine certificates will be implemented by the end of the year.
以前我们需要带那个小黄卡，对，或是要用国际的接种证明。现在我们就可以利用 手机使用数位接种证明的方式到欧盟那边可以直接采用。
The Army has held a live-round tank firing exercise in northern Taiwan. In a mock combat scenario, the Taiwanese Army simulated a Chinese amphibious landing on Hsinchu's coast. Rows of tanks lined up and fired live artillery in a drill highlighting combat readiness. The Army has approximately 1,000 tanks, but many of which have been in service for more than 20 years. The drills are part of a larger effort to strengthen the country's defence and comes during a period of increased tensions in the Taiwan Strait. The chief of one of the main tank training centres says it will raise the combat readiness level of Taiwan's troops.
我们也希望借由这个训练，来针对整个排组的自信、团结合作，以及排长独立指挥、独断专行的一个能力，来做一个整合式的，让我们战车排的战力来更为符合未来实战化以及独立作战的目标。
Beijing is banning members of a US government panel from entering China. The move comes in response to Washington's sanctions on Chinese officials accused of human rights abuses in Xinjiang. The bans against the chairwoman and 3 members of the US Commission on International Religious Freedom included freezing their assets in China. Beijing denies allegations that it has carried out mass detentions, forced abortions and other human rights abuses against Xinjiang's Uyghur population.
必须指出，新疆事务纯属中国内政，美方没有权利、没有资格横加干涉。美方应撤销所谓制裁，停止干涉新疆事务和中国内政。中方将视形势发展，作出进一步反应。
China says COVID and sabotage are to blame for low turnout in Hong Kong's Patriots-only Legislative Council elections. In the first vote since Beijing imposed sweeping changes to Hong Kong's electoral system, all but one of 90 seats were taken by pre-vetted pro-China candidates. The 30.2% turnout rate was the lowest in Hong Kong's history. The last election in 2016 saw a turnout of 58%. Democracy activists had urged a boycott of the vote as the candidates were picked by the pro-Beijing election committee and special interest groups. China's foreign ministry blamed anti-China sentiment and foreign interference for the low voter turnout. The Taiwan women's football team is set to take part in its first Asian Cup since 2008 after securing qualification in Bahrain in October. TaiwanPlus reporter Pichi Zhuang has the story.
Taiwan's team is heading to India next month for the 2022 Women's Asian Cup. They have been drawn to face the host nation as well as China and Iran. Head coach Ejiko Kazuo says the team is in good shape, but they are expecting a tough fight.
どこもちゃぶ台で楽なグループはないので、その3チームに対してしっかり準備して戦いたいと思っております。
32 teams will be competing at the 2023 FIFA Women's World Cup Finals in New Zealand with 6 spots for Asia's top teams. The Chinese Taipei Football Association says the team has a good shot at being one of them.
目前来讲，我们评估起来是有机会进入前6的，因为说起来我们的签虽然说不是特别好，也不算差，所以这一次真的是很有机会。
At the Asian Cup, the team will run out in new blue, white and red uniforms inspired by the Taiwan Blue Magpie. Alex Chen and Pichu Zhuang for TaiwanPlus.
Coming up, countries around the world weigh up imposing Christmas lockdowns as Omicron cases surge. Details in a moment.
今天台湾人要了解的是，我们跟这片土地关系里面，它是跟你的生命的根源息息相关。像这个红块、扁柏等等，他们都是台湾的神明。长期以来，我一直误以为我在抢救山林，直到最近10年来，我才了解，我从来没有抢救山林，而是山林从来在抢救我们。我们的地球46亿年来，我们就是它的一部分，它就是我们共同的灵魂，流传在我的血液中，也流动在树叶当中。
这是我们台湾人要送给台湾的礼物。
我们都清楚，我们都在一起，在完成一件事情。
这是我们的根。
Thanks for watching TaiwanPlus. For more great stories from Taiwan and around the world, download the TaiwanPlus app.
Welcome back. You're watching Taiwan Plus News. A reminder of our top story. Taiwan's industry leaders have met with government representatives and urged them to increase efforts to ensure the country has a stable electricity supply. TSMC's chairman says the government and private sector should work in tandem to deal with the energy shortage. Let's take a look at some of the events making the headlines around the world. The death toll has risen to at least 14 after torrential rainfall caused massive flooding in Malaysia. More than 50,000 people have been displaced from their homes. Volunteers are using kayaks in Selangor, the state that surrounds the capital, Kuala Lumpur, to bring stranded people to dry land. While the rain has eased, many people have returned to find their homes and belongings destroyed. Officials say this is the worst flooding in Malaysia in 50 years. The operator of the destroyed Fukushima nuclear plant in Japan has applied to build an underwater tunnel to release contaminated wastewater into the sea. Tokyo Electric Power Company said it hopes to get the go-ahead from the Nuclear Regulation Authority to begin work on the tunnel in June and start releasing the water in 2023. The Fukushima nuclear plant was damaged in the 2011 earthquake and tsunami. Since then, its operators have been grappling with what to do with the plant's radioactive wastewater. International authorities support the plan to release the water into the Pacific, but there are concerns from neighbouring countries, including China and South Korea, and local fishermen. Countries are gearing up for a second COVID Christmas as the new Omicron variant triggers yet another wave in the pandemic. Authorities now face a dilemma as they confront a likely spike in cases. With pandemic-weary people eager to enjoy the holiday season, governments are split on how hard to lock down. James Chater has this report.
A vision of Christmas normality. New Yorkers ice skating under Manhattan's skyline has an air of pre-pandemic innocence. But beneath the beam of Christmas lights, sirens tell another story. The Big Apple is facing a surge in COVID-19 infections, with daily cases last week up 127% on the previous week. Omicron now accounts for 75% of new cases in New York State. From Tuesday, New Yorkers can pick up $100 if they get a booster jab. But despite President Biden warning unvaccinated Americans should be concerned about the surge, the city's mayor has vowed no more lockdowns.
We've been through them. They were devastating. We can't go through it again. In this case, we weather the storm because we were prepared with a high level of vaccination already. We were prepared with a strong healthcare system.
New York's conundrum is one faced by Christmas-celebrating countries around the world. An Omicron wave looks all but sure, but with pandemic-weary people eager to celebrate the holiday season, governments are divided on when they will take the hit. In the UK, Omicron-fueled case rates are at their highest since the pandemic began, and that's led many to change their plans, including the Queen. But on Tuesday, despite admitting Omicron was surging at a speed unlike anything before, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson said there will be no new restrictions before Christmas. More measures after the holidays are on the cards though. That makes for a stark contrast with Berlin.
Doch Corona macht keine Weihnachtspause.
Hamburg will impose new curfews from Christmas Eve, and across Germany, gatherings will be limited to 10 people from December the 28th. In Portugal, working from home will be mandatory from Christmas Day, and kindergartens, bars and nightclubs will all close for 2 weeks. But in the Netherlands, Christmas was not a good enough reason to delay further restrictions. This week, Dutch streets look deserted as the country settled into a pre-Christmas lockdown set to last till mid-January.
And most of the people wait till the days just before Christmas, that when you blow dry your hair or something, that it's good with Christmas. But now, we don't have that clients anymore, so lose a lot of money.
Regardless of location, citizens and governments alike will be hoping any Omicron-induced hibernation won't last too long. James Rayner and James Chater for TaiwanPlus.
The upcoming Beijing Winter Olympics will not feature the biggest stars of world ice hockey. The NHL and its Players Association say they won't allow their players to take part in the games due to COVID-19 concerns. The NHL has already suspended games involving cross-border travel until after the Christmas break. As of December 21st, the league had postponed 50 games because of COVID cases affecting teams. That's according to broadcaster ESPN. Among the 12 species of owls in Taiwan, the eastern grass owl is probably the most mysterious. It is endemic to Taiwan, but is increasingly endangered due to habitat destruction. Filmmaker Wang Junming has spent the last 5 years working on a film to raise awareness of the species. Pichi Zhuang has the story.
With its heart-shaped face and small eyes, the eastern grass owl can be found in the Siraya Scenic Area in Tainan, southern Taiwan. The owl is a protected species in Taiwan, where less than 500 are now left in the wild. Filmmaker Wang Junming has been tracking these elusive creatures since he first saw one in 2017.
整个台南市啊，应该是每个地方都有可能都有草鸮，但是它筑巢的地方还是着重在西拉雅草。生蛋，然后到它破壳至少要1个月啊，1个月它出生以后大概要经过大概2个月，所以3个月的时间，它一直要在这个巢区里面。
Taiwan's Forestry Bureau has launched a program to help protect the birds. Certified owl-friendly farmers in Tainan can now receive a subsidy of about $700 for not using pesticides or nets in their fields. The Bureau also encourages local volunteers to patrol the owls' habitats to check for dangers to the animals or find any that might be injured.
巡守队的话，每一年的话可以补助6万块，每一个人要有巡守6次以上，生态的一个讲习要4个小时。
However, so far, no one has stepped up to be a patrol volunteer.
可能遇到的困境，可能就是大家不了解他的工作性质，还是说他完全没有听过草鸮这种东西啊，所以这个还要靠那个宣导啊，然后再教育这样子啊。
Using his camera to record the intimate moments of the owl's family life, One is determined to change attitudes toward the birds before it's too late. Rick Yi and Pichi Zhuang for TaiwanPlus.
In a part of the world where daily life is a struggle, the welfare of animals often becomes an afterthought. But in the enclave of Gaza, where people are facing an economic and humanitarian crisis due to a blockade from neighboring Israel, there is one group finding ingenious ways to help injured animals. Wei Zhonglu has this story.
This is Lucy, happily moving around in a wheelchair made from a recycled children's bicycle. Her legs were paralyzed in a car accident, but now she has gained a new lease on life. She is just one of 32 disabled cats and dogs who have been rescued by this animal shelter in the Gaza Strip.
في المحمية ما يقارب 12 كلب مبثور وفي ضمنهم مشلولات يعني شلل نصفي وفي عندنا ما يقارب 20 قط كمان شلل واللي هو بثر.
The 360 square kilometer Palestinian enclave faces a chronic humanitarian crisis with limited access to essential services for its 2 million residents. There are no dedicated medical centers to treat sick or injured animals in Gaza, let alone a place that can provide artificial limbs for cats and dogs.
فمن الجال هذا احنا بنتجه حتى نقدم لهم إن شاء الله الرعاية الخاصة لهم من ناحية الأطراف وبالشغلات البسيطة اللي عندنا في غزة راح نكمل ونسعى إن شاء الله حتى نعالج جميع الحيوانات.
While the shelter faces difficulties in procuring not only specialist equipment but also basic essentials, its workers are determined to keep doing whatever they can to help Gaza's animals in need.
في حالات كثيرة بعد الحرب جتنا على الملجأ اللي هو بثر وفقدنا طبعا أعداد كثيرة عندنا هنا في الملجأ من نتيجة الحرب وبنتمنى إنه يكون مركز للأطراف للحيوان في غزة غير الشغلات المحلية اللي إحنا بنقوم فيها هنا حاليا في الملجأ حتى نخلي الحيوانات تعيش حياتها بشكل رسمي.
Thanks to their kindness, injured animals in Gaza have the chance to live happy lives once again. Klein Wang, Wei Zhonglu for TaiwanPlus.
The population of Taiwan's finless porpoises has declined dramatically over the past 2 decades. The mammals are often sighted in shallow waters where they feed, but in recent years, many have been washing up on shore. In this report, we find out how scientists are looking for clues on what's behind their decline and finding ways to save them.
Finless porpoises range from the Indian Ocean to the Western Pacific. Their preference for feeding in estuaries means their activities regularly overlap with human economic activities. Dr. Qiuru Yao began studying finless porpoises in 2003. Her work requires patience and optimism, as she must regularly deal with porpoises that are no longer alive.
死亡这么多的动物，是不是在海洋环境里面有一些剧烈的环境变迁，或者是人为的活动在这边有一些显著的改变啊，让这些动物因为死亡而搁浅。
Manzu Archipelago sits in the Taiwan Strait, 210 kilometers to the northwest of Taiwan. The islands are the shared habitat of narrow-ridged and Indo-Pacific porpoises, and one of the most important sites where both may be viewed together. This is why Dr. Yao has made Manzu the main focus of her finless porpoise research.
每年11月到隔年的2月是马祖陆脊鼠海豚出现的高峰期，在冬天严酷的天气，还有很大的风浪，动物没有备齐，再加上它们的行为很隐秘，对我们来讲观察上是一个蛮大的挑战。在这20多年的搁浅还有目击的资料，我们发现在马祖这里有很多的新生儿。 也让我们意会到这里是他们一个很重要的繁殖的栖息地。如何让他们在这里继续的繁衍，然后安心的生活下去，也就成为我们未来的研究还有推动工作的一个很重要的目标。
Although Dr. Yao's efforts may not quickly see practical results, she's working earnestly to keep hope for the finless porpoise alive.
The world's first text message has been sold at auction in Paris for $121,000 as a non-fungible token. The text was sent on December 3rd, 1992 and was put up for auction by the British telecoms company Vodafone. It read, "Merry Christmas," a simple message of 14 letters that took technology to the next level. Thanks for watching TaiwanPlus News. I'm Yin Khvat. We'll leave you with images of dozens of Santa Clauses who swapped sleighs for gondolas as they rode along Venice's canals. For more stories from Taiwan and around the world, please download the TaiwanPlus app. Stay safe and see you next time.